Hi and welcome to this video, which is intended to help paediatric trainees prepare their portfolio for ARCP. So, what is ARCP? ARCP, or the Annual Review of Competency Progression, is the process by which doctors in training are reviewed each year. ARCP ensures that trainees offer safe, quality patient care and assesses that they are meeting the standards for progression set in the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health curriculum. It also covers trainees for revalidation purposes under the GMC. What happens in ARCP? So, ARCP generally happens at the end of each training year. The ARCP panel members will meet, and there will be at least 3 members of that panel, one of which must be either the postgraduate dean, the head of school, or a training program director, and they review your e-portfolio. In standard training, this happens around June time, but it could also happen in February if you have staggered your training for any reason. Trainees generally don't attend to these meetings. To progress to the next stage of training, you will have to have satisfactory ARCP outcomes, and to get this, you will need to evidence your progress throughout the training year. This is done by keeping an up-to-date portfolio. There are many different ARCP outcomes. The 6 possible ones that there are, you should either be aiming for an outcome 1 or an outcome 6 if you're at the end of your training. If your portfolio is badly organised, or you've not covered a sufficient amount of the curriculum or completed an appropriate amount of assessments, then this may result in you getting an unsatisfactory outcome. There are some expectations on the type and number of assessments you're expected to complete. In terms of assessments like mini-KEXs and CBDs, there's no requirement for a minimum total. They would much prefer that you do quality assessments covering different areas rather than a large quantity of assessments. A useful learning event will challenge trainees and act as a stimulus to identify learning gaps and as a mechanism for reflection. When you look at the other types of assessment, there are often a set number that need to be completed either each year, so each training grade, or throughout that level of training. This table is available on the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health website, and in COVID times this has been adapted as well, so it is worth checking for the most up-to-date information. So you've done all of your assessments, but for them to count, you need to make sure you link them to the curriculum and tag them. So each time you complete a portfolio event, you should ideally tag it to the relevant part of the curriculum. If you haven't tagged things as you go along, and it really is easier if you do, you can tag events after they have been completed and even bulk tag them, perhaps as you're approaching ARCP in a panic. We've been advised by the training program directors that they prefer to see well-focused learning events which are linked to 1 to 2 domains in the curriculum, but this is not a hard and fast rule, and it's preferable to have events with a differing focus rather than just a few learning events which are broadly linked to many curriculum domains. At the end of each training level, you also need to demonstrate that you have met all of the key capabilities through tagging those learning events at that level of training. To see more about the curriculum, either look at the Royal College website or our section on the KSS Paediatrics website for more information. So when you want to bulk tag assessments in your portfolio, you start off on this timeline view, click on timeline and click whole timeline. Underneath that button, which you usually use to create new assessments, you can see the bulk tagging option. Click on that, and then this page that you are seeing now is where you can select which curriculum domains you want to tag to your events. So you can click on any domain and it will open up a submenu which will have the level 1, level 2 and level 3 learning outcomes. Click on the appropriate level and you will see the key capabilities. You can select one or more of these capabilities and click Select Events to apply to. From here, you can scroll through your assessments and click Apply Tags to any that apply. Once you have finished doing this, you can click Exit Bulk Tagging, and if you then wish to tag events with a different tag, with a different curriculum domain, go back into bulk tagging, select that different domain, and then go on to tag those events. Another really important aspect to having a good portfolio for your ARCP is the organisation of folders. So whilst your assessments automatically go on the timeline, you might add extra documents, for example, certificates, presentations, posters, to evidence further learning and career development that you've done. Having these documents organised into folders and a system that makes sense helps the ARCP panel easily find them when reviewing your portfolio. There isn't a single correct way to organise this, so find what works for you, but try and make sure it is clear where those documents are and that it can be navigated easily. So when looking at your documents and your folder, again starting off at this dashboard view, click on Documents. Now this will show any folders or any documents that are not within a folder on this initial screen. If you want to start a new folder, then click New Folder. From here you can choose to give it a name and save it, and that folder will now be in your portfolio. There isn't one single right way to organise your portfolio, but for me, I have made a folder applicable to each year of training and also a folder with up-to-date courses so that it is easy to find my up-to-date APLS certificate, NLS certificate, any other certificates. So to get back to the main section of your documents, you can just click back on courses and then Home. So within each year for me, I have looked at it based broadly upon the areas which you can get points towards your job applications when applying for training posts, and I have made a section for attendance at teaching sessions such as team days or other e-learning courses or any Teaching Tuesday sessions. I have made a section for any clinical governance I've been involved with, a section for any teaching I have organised and delivered, a section to evidence any leadership roles, a section for positive feedback and comments, and a section for any presentations that I might have given. Again, you might find that a slightly different structure works better for you, but as long as it's clear, as long as it is easy to navigate, this will make the ARCP panel's job much easier and hopefully help you receive a satisfactory outcome for ARCP. If you wish to add new documents to your folders, you can click on the Upload Document button and either drag documents into that box or click to select a document. Then once the document has been uploaded, so for example these documents, if you wish to rename them you can use the rename button, or if you wish to move them you can select that document and then select the button up here to move it to a different section. Another crucial aspect in making sure that your portfolio is ready for ARCP is the Educational Supervisor's Report. The ES report is that crucial link between your educational progress, those supervised learning events, and any summative assessment processes. Since the panel rely on looking at that report as a summary of your year and as evidence that you are fit to proceed to the next level of training. You need to make sure this report is completed in advance of your ARCP. In addition, ARCP will normally happen before the end of your placement, so make sure this is ready with plenty of time. The ES report is trainee-led, so you need to initiate it and complete some initial sections before it can be sent to your educational supervisor and they can complete it with you. Finally, don't be too modest and try and show off what you have managed to achieve over the year. In your final educational supervisor meeting, your supervisor should complete the report with you and go through the following. So you will need to go through your PDP to establish if you have managed to achieve what you've set out to do. They should look at whether you have completed mandatory courses such as advanced paediatric life support or neonatal life support, and that you are up to date with your level 3 safeguarding and any other courses that you may have attended. They should also look at the multi-source feedback assessment that you have completed and at least one of these during the year. They will also go through each of the RCPCH curriculum domains, and this will be pulled through from the tagging that you've done to make sure that you're on target for what is expected of your training grade. Finally, you may discuss any awareness of any significant negative events you've been involved in, and don't panic if this has happened. Most of us will be involved in some kind of significant event at some point, but you will have been expected to formally reflect, perhaps in your development log, upon any such events that have happened. So to start your educational supervisor report for the end of your year and for your ARCP, you start on this dashboard view. Click on timeline, click on whole timeline, and just like any other assessment or meeting, click create new. Then you will scroll down to supervision report. Then in here you can select the date when you are doing your educational supervisor meeting and click on type of report. Then you will want to select Educational Supervisor Trainer Report for ARCP. This will then bring up a lot of options and it will take some time to complete, so make sure you've got a few minutes spare. Select the grade of training you're at and select the dates for your training post, and then confirm that that information is correct. Then click on Generate Report for your personal development plans, ideally making sure that you have addressed any elements within your personal development plan to mark the items as completed, or if you're carrying them over to the next year, that you are carrying them over. Click Generate Report to bring in details of any courses such as APLS or NLS. Pull through that information for any safeguarding certification you've done. Confirm whether or not you have completed an MSF report for the year. Talk about whether there are any areas that you think you need to address or that you've excelled in during your training period. Comment on your progress so far at your current level of training. And then finally, send this to your educational supervisor by clicking the button in the top right hand corner to submit. Finally, you also need to complete a form known as Form R, Part B. This form is pretty much a technicality and something that just needs to be included, but it is a self-declaration form which has to be completed for ARCP. It asks for information about your recent scope of practice, any time out of training, and any declarations relating to revalidation. This informs the ARCP panel to comment on your fitness to practice, which in turn allows the Dean to give any recommendations to the GMC about your revalidation. This form is essentially the part of the ARCP process which means you can be revalidated so that you can continue practicing as a doctor under the GMC. Finally, some general tips for keeping your portfolio in shape prior to ARCP. It's much easier to do things as you go along rather than doing them at the end. In addition, you might want to upload a CV in your document section, which will be able to highlight your experience and any extracurricular things you've done. And you can consider using the ePortfolio summary. We have a template for doing this on our KSS Paediatrics website. And when you're doing things during the year, perhaps think about things which may get you points for future job post applications so that you can do this with plenty of time so that when you're applying for clinical posts, you have a better chance of getting the posts you want. Hopefully this video has been helpful, and with this advice you can get your ePortfolio up to shape so that you're not panicking last minute in the run up to ARCP.